Welcome to the first segment on how AI is changing the hotel industry. AI is now at a critical point. Anthropic, one of the AI majors in the US, is now the fastest company in US history to reach 30 billion in annual recurring revenue. Last week, Anthropic announced that they had built a model so powerful that it could not be released to the general public for fears of mass cybersecurity risk. And just last week, the Federal Reserve called in all of the most senior bankers for an emergency meeting on AI cybersecurity. In this series, we are going to be exploring in the most practical terms how AI is impacting hotels, from operations to finance to traveler experience. And I'm so lucky today to be joined by my first guest, a hotel industry expert, Caspar Schmidt. And so, Caspar, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi Sam, good to see you, mate. My name is Caspar Schmidt. I've been in industry for plus 25 years now, and the last seven and a half of those I have been a consultant in my own advisory business. So we work across Asia, APAC, with owners on projects, hotel developments, and help them align portfolios and we do lots of development and investment analysis as well. So that's sort of a broad sort of a spectrum of what we cover.
Awesome. So, I mean, just jumping in, where do you believe that AI will have the most sort of meaningful impact for hotels? Do you believe that's in sort of customer experience, operations, distribution? Are there sort of one or two things that stand out for you?
Yeah, I mean it's I guess across the board really when you think about it. I guess it's whenever it's moving the net operating income, that's really where where it kicks, right? I think if you look at revenue and distribution, then that's probably the biggest sort of immediate impact that it has. Because it delivers, I guess, smarter pricing, which I guess you can look at as real time. Lots of the channels we're looking at also gives you that sort of optimization in that space, so you can differentiate that, and then you can look at, I guess, smaller segmentations, etc. But I think if your RevPAR can be lifted, say 3 to 5% in this space by AI, then I mean, without obviously increasing the cost, then we're winning straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going sort of the next level deeper on that, what do you think is actually working as an early use case in practice? I mean, I think what we're seeing a lot of at the moment is there's huge amounts of news on AI at sort of a frontier model level, at an Anthropic, OpenAI level, but there's always a delay when it comes to sort of getting it right on a sort of hotel vertical specific level. So, I mean, do you see anything that's working really well yet or sort of in progress?
Look, I'm seeing across the board, there's some aspects of AI which is really good. Some of it that's really getting a lot of traction at the moment is labor forecasting. So
Mm.
that's been really, really impressive. Actually, of what I've seen in the last couple of years, the difference is night and day, basically. The forecasting is now so accurate that you actually you find money if you start optimizing in that space, and that's really interesting. Running hotels, we all know it's all about the bottom line at the end of the day, but that's really one focus, and I think many of the larger hotel companies are on that trajectory to either sign up with some an AI company that has that capability, or they're definitely looking at it. I don't want to say I want to say more than 50% of the clients that I have are using systems that are helping them with that,
Wow.
because it's not only time consuming, but it's also in particular in Australia, there's a lot of legal aspects to this. If you don't get the forecasting right, if you're not paying people right at the right time, etc., with the penalties, etc., from a labor perspective, then there's issues. Also, we're finding that there's a huge uptake on energy consumption when it's AI based, and it actually helps. I would say, the bigger the projects you have, the better. And it actually finds you more money from an optimization perspective. And then I guess with AI, one of the things we use when we look at, in particular, resorts and developments in Asia and a lot in Japan, is what we call predictive maintenance. So it's basically looking at forecasting, say over 10 years, 10-year project. It will tell you when you're going to have capex spikes, and that's pretty cool. So we use that aspect of it, and one of the funds that I work with are really into this. To a point where half of the people that are responding to emails, it's all AI driven. So you're like, okay, I'm speaking to ChatGPT, but I'm not. It's like so, yeah. But it's interesting because yeah, that's giving you a lot of predictive sort of options, and it's helping you long term, I think, to really sort of look at um, where's the asset potentially underperforming and where can it perform better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's super interesting. I think you covered a couple of different things there. The first thing just around labor forecasting. In the simplest terms, does that mean if I, let's say, run an airport hotel next to Mackay Airport in Queensland, I essentially can have smarter recommendations to tell me exactly sort of how many staff I need, when they should be rostered on,
Yeah.
when sort of things are going to go wrong.
Definitely. It gives you that opportunity. It will predict, and it will predict the behavior based on your input. And as you know, it gets smarter as you get along with it and you communicate more with it. But at the end of the day, it will come up with solutions to your problem. Now, I'm not saying that to take the people away. I'm
Mm.
saying it's a mix of both, but you will have predictive patterns that it will put forward towards you that you can look at and then say, okay, on this Thursday, I may only need two people on the front desk versus our usual three, or it may tell you to cut someone at 6 o'clock because all the flights have come in at 5:30 and everyone's checked in, right?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
one of
yeah.
those things. Yeah.
That's super interesting. And the second thing you touched on was around energy optimization, where you were saying sort of the AI models are getting smarter around sort of how you can save more energy.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things where, as an example, if you have a lot of solar, obviously it predicts the number of days a year that the sun is shining. It will like it tells you all these different things, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a resort that's maybe 50% off grid, then you actually understand when you need to pay for power. And in this current environment, you know that that's quite nice to know. So I think it's basically also going to tell you the longevity of the systems that you have in place. So hence your capex or your opex spikes, which you will have throughout a timeline of a project, will be, I guess, not predictable, but they will give you a good indication of when you would have to spend more money.
Interesting. That's super interesting. And so, I mean, I think from the other hand now, is there anywhere where you have seen that AI has been slightly overestimated, or you've seen hotels say we're going to do this or we're going to do that, and it hasn't quite come off in the way that you would want?
Yeah, look, I still think if you look at luxury is human interaction. It's like that's what you get, that's what you want. You want someone to be there. I'm not telling you that robots are not working on a reception. I think you and I caught up in Singapore at some stage, and we were seeing all the robots at this one conference. That's cool, and it work. I get it. It works. The back of house essentially would work better if you have robotics, and it can help in housekeeping. I get all of that, but I don't know. I mean, it's not so charming to have an AI replacing staff as a concierge service, as an
Mm.
example. I think it's very predictable to see who you speak to and who you communicate with, right? So,
Mm.
um, I think it's not succeeding yet, and I say yet, in that sort of lifestyle luxury space. I think in more larger establishments, and I could only imagine being that in casino hotels or like really large, airport hotels or
Mm.
city hotels where you are like 500 plus rooms, that there's definitely space for it. but you just got to be careful that it's not taking over and that human interaction is not sort of, disappearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, completely agree, particularly on your point about luxury. And perhaps that feeds nicely into the next sort of question, which is, do you believe that AI is going to create sort of a real difference between hotel operators in the sense that some operators will sort of go all out with AI and possibly be able to increase operating margins as well as maintain or improve customer experience? And then others will stay fairly traditional in the same way that hotels have been run for the last 30 years. I mean, do you think we will start to see that sort of divergence?
Well, I think it started already. I mean, there's no doubt that it's taking over. And I mean, even if you look a couple of years ago, people were afraid of using any AI, and now, everyone's using it. So I
Mm.
think there's space for both. But I mean, just to go back to the sort of the luxury space, it's I think, look, if a guest is going to pay, say, 800 to a couple of grand a night, they don't pay for automation, right? They pay to feel understood. Does that make sense to you? Like they're paying for this extra aspect of that human interaction, and that's part of the luxury. So I think maybe that's why AI in that segment is not so maybe not catching up so fast. I think in other aspects, if you have data that's, I guess, clean, if you have a team that's really drilled on executing fast and it's streamlined, then I think absolutely there's a way to that, and AI would definitely amplify that. There's no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've spoken about luxury a few times, but if we go to the complete opposite side of the segment of sort
Yeah,
of the industry, and I mean, I actually had a few conversations last year with some of the sort of hostel operators that are doing quite well in Australia.
yeah.
Do you think that AI really has the potential to structurally lift operating margins for those kinds of operators, where in the sense there was always sort of a hard floor that you could never really sell a room below 40 or $50 a night because the cost of cleaning was essentially equivalent to that. But do you think that sort of AI could somewhat change that?
Yeah, I do think so. So in establishments like that, I want to say, you're sort of talking about hostels or up to three-star hotels,
Yeah.
and like in that range, yes, I do think that optimization is key. And I think what you weren't able to do before because you had a lack of staff, it's not necessarily going to take over the number of staff you have in those operations because they're lean anyway, but they will
Mm.
help optimize, right? You have to have less reliance on, say, OTAs, because the AI can predict more. It can tell you, okay, you have a sale opportunity now, and you need to load the system at this, or the system will actually do that for you, right? So I think that's going to help you make less of those poorer pricing decisions, which occurs a lot in a lot of hotels, right? When it's all manual and it's like, oh, okay, it's Thursday today, I should sell at $100, but the AI might say no, you should sell it at 85 because the booking will be for 3 days instead of one, right? There's just predictability there. I think the problem we have in industry now, as you're aware too, is that a lot of people are leaving industry, or they're not wanting to join industry, right? So we have to become more efficient one way or another.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I mean, do you think that on that point of trying to attract and maintain the right talent, AI can make the jobs both more interesting and sustainable for people working in hotels as well as more broadly in hospitality?
Well, I think it has to be incorporated, and I think we don't have a choice. And I'm of an older generation than you, so I think I'm lacking the knowledge and the know-how. I'm trying to stay updated and try and sort of get into every aspect. And I think I'm lucky with the business that I have. I see a lot of different kind of assets, right? That are all blended. It can be city hotels or it can be resorts or a five-star hotel somewhere, and they're all sort of leaning towards this, but it's a question of getting the right generation into the hotels to actually run it and then get the owners behind it for sure. But I do think some of the bigger chains obviously are really pushing this, and they are trying to sort of levitate towards getting more and more involved. But it has to become like I guess a project within the brands where they coexist and they work together. It clearly, from an owner's perspective, has to be based on net operating income when you invest in it. There has to be a clear, arrow down towards the bottom line so that you can see the efficiencies that it's creating. And that's the discussions we're having too, all the time. Like, what's this creating? If we are installing a bot or we like the company wants to have upsell from a room service perspective, whatever, how do we actually do that when we don't have the team members to be able to service it, right?
Mm.
So yeah, look, I think it goes hand in hand, but it comes back to training and it comes back to, as you know, how much you're using the AI agent and how much information you give it, because
Mm.
yeah, I guess it gets smarter that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, the last thing I would love to cover with you is just around distribution and sort of top of funnel marketing. And I
Mhm.
think this is probably very topical because I mean, as we both know, for the last 20 years, OTAs have dominated and they've dominated for good reason. How do you see things shifting or changing as increasingly a traveler will go to their AI travel agent or they'll go directly to Claude instead of going to some of the more traditional channels?
Oh, but I think, I mean, the option is so much better. Like, if you're looking for hotels in Sydney or whatever, as the usual recommendation when you go online, right? Then with an AI, you probably end up looking at something. If you put in, say, design hotel or something like that, you get the best option. You can segment. You can put it into segments. It's the area. It's the street location. It's I want this around that space or around this restaurant. What's the best, etc. So I think the AI will curate that, and the booking, the OTAs are not they're not able to do that yet.
Mm.
Now, I also heard interestingly the other day that I think Booking.com was hacked, wasn't it? Uh,
I hadn't heard that.
okay, I heard that. So maybe look that
Okay.
up. That's not so good with all the members there, obviously. But I think you have, I guess, instead of when you go, when you go on an OTA and you type in Sydney, you get 150 options, right? Whereas AI will say, no, 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 tell us exactly what it is that you're looking for, or even from your previous usage of that search or search engine, etc., or service, it will know, hey, you know what, Sam likes boutique hotels. It has to have this and this aspect, and so it will just give you maybe five, right? And it
Yeah.
just it just fits it fits your, I guess, your decision making better because it's getting used to you.
Absolutely. I mean, that personalization point about where all the data lives is a super interesting one. And with that data, you can really drive some pretty amazing travel recommendations. But Casper, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh,
Really
you're welcome.
appreciate you jumping on.
Always happy to have a chat, mate.